People who drain you. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and everybody has at least one person in their life that when you hang out with them, you feel exhausted, you feel burnt out, you feel like you just want to dip out of that conversation. Have you had that experience?
I have, yes. There are definitely those who take a little more energy than they give.
Yeah, and it's hard because it's a tough line. You know, you want to be a good friend, but you also don't want to always have that interaction where you're feeling so drained afterwards. Mm-hmm. So what do you do? Like, how do you even handle that?
Well, I think first and foremost, as all things that we're going to end up saying, is that awareness, right? First, you have to realize, like, am I getting tired after this interaction, right? Are you even putting those two together to be able to say, like, wow, every time I hang out with this person, I feel pretty tired, pretty burnt out. And it doesn't mean that you don't enjoy hanging out with them. It's just more of like your own being. Like, how do you feel after? And is it the person or is it the things you're talking about? And what are your thoughts during those conversations? Because I think it also isn't just somebody's a negative person and they drain your energy. I think it's also the way that we allow it or control how much people take that's important too.
Yeah, and it actually makes me think of, like, who are these people that are the energy drainers, right? Typically, they're the ones that are oversharers, you know, the ones that are never satisfied, the people that are consistently maybe complaining, right? And so you're sitting there feeding into that energy and listening to them complain all the time about just every little thing. And I think it brings some awareness to figure out, like, who those people are and why they are the way that they are.
Definitely. And as you're talking, that makes me also visualize the kind of the reality behind our need as people is to want to fix something. And when you're talking to somebody who is complaining, you're, at least, I don't know, not your, for me at least, it's like, okay, cool. I'm identifying, boop, boop. What are you going to do? How are you going to fix this? How are we going to adjust this? Whoa, maybe there's something you need to understand better and we can investigate and inspect it.
You are definitely the fixer. Like, sometimes it's like, I just want to vent.
Yeah.
But you're like, wait a second. She's venting. Okay. I'm listening. But here's 10 different things that I'm going to tell you to do.
Sure.
So, but in that in itself, back to the point, is that in itself could be draining too. Like,
because it's frustrating.
Yes. Are you contributing to that?
So to kind of finish my thought is like, if that's that's my state of mind, right? If I'm listening, I'm like, cool, problem sign, boop, 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 right? And if you don't want an answer because you're not really looking to solve whatever you're complaining about, that's fine too. But here's the differentiating factor. If it's the same thing over and over again, because I too like to vent and I'm just like, dude, I don't need to fix this. I'm just a little upset about it, whatever.
Right.
So that's fine. But if it's the same problem with the same amount of intensity, you're complaining all the time. And it's like, dude, do you want to fix this issue? Because if you don't, then it makes me feel helpless. And the feeling of helplessness is what I think drains me personally, because then I'm like, what
are we doing here?
You know,
right? Like, what is the point? I mean, okay,
venting, fine, but you can't vent about the same thing over and over again.
If you're not doing anything about it.
Yes, that's fair.
Right?
Because you could be implementing change.
You could, and you're like, man, this didn't work or this didn't work. Okay, you know, what can I do? And we can brainstorm together. But to be able to literally vent about the same exact thing without putting in any of the work that it takes to fix it, you know, because
if venting about something fixes the problem, then that's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's say you're upset about how something turned out. Oh, you know, I got this, shitty grade, whatever. And I'm really upset about it. I know why I got it. I should have studied more or whatever. Right. And it just really sucks. And I'm feeling kind of crappy. So I just want to talk to somebody about it and have somebody maybe be a cheerleader for me and be like, it's okay. You got it next time, you know? But if it's kind of the same thing, oh, well, I got a bad grade and I know that it's a bad grade. I can't believe I got that grade. Okay. And then you're coming back with the same thing. Oh yeah, I got a bad grade. I know
I should have studied and I know this and I know that, but you're not doing anything.
Right. So it's not just venting, oh, this happens and I'm just need to air it out. I'm repeating the same thing over and I'm coming to you with the same problem essentially, but I'm going to do nothing to fix it. At that point, it's like, okay, well, is then venting productive?
Yeah. And back to the point of just like dealing with people who are like that. It's like, what is your role in this? Okay, so you let them vent. Maybe you try to give them some suggestions. They still keep venting about the same thing. Maybe they're not doing, any of the advice or any of the tips that you gave them or whatever, and you're feeling frustrated. Then I think it's on you to kind of adjust how you approach that situation, right? Because if you're consistently giving, and the person's taking, you're going to end up being that emotionally drained person. So you need to be able to say, okay, I tried to help them. I try to help them fix this. They're not taking my advice. There's nothing I can really do further. So what is my role? Maybe it's just to listen. Be like, okay, that sucks, man.
But then it's your mindset that you have to adjust.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So
you're working on yourself.
Yes, it's the two-parter. You don't just cut off all negative people in your life. I don't think that's possible because that could be a relative, a sibling,
absolutely,
whatever. But it's really changing that mindset and realizing, okay, this person is going to choose to do what they're going to do, and they're going to vent. And if I love and care enough about them, I may be present for it. I could set a boundary and say, hey, listen, I'm not the right person to talk to about this.
Right.
Or truly realize like, okay, this is just their process. They're going to vent about it, and they're not going to change anything about it, and that's their choice, and that's okay. So you can participate in that, but at least your mindset isn't rushing around trying to solve somebody else's problem.
Exactly.
That's the biggest piece, right?
Yeah.
Is thinking that you can solve other people's problems. It has to be their choice.
Exactly. And you're completely right about the boundaries, because that is so important in this. At the end of the day, you might have to be direct and say, you know what, I'm unavailable to talk to you about this right now. Something that is direct, that says, I just can't right now, because you are trying to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Well, and also that, right, is timing. Like sometimes if you know that this person truly is causing exhaustion for you, or too much time with that person causes exhaustion, then you have to be very mindful of when you see that person. Maybe if you're feeling super energetic and you miss them and you want to talk to them, limit how much you see them, when you see them, for how long. Don't keep being their primary source of energy, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a good point, because, a lot of the time it's like, oh, do you want to hang out? Okay, yeah. But there's not even just like a time frame. Maybe with those kinds of people, you might be like, hey, do you want to have lunch today? Where it's like a limited amount of time that you're giving to this friendship, this relationship. And it kind of sets that boundary that, hey, I'm available for lunch, not I'm available just to hang out, because there's no end to it, right?
Right. And you may feel trapped, like you can't leave the conversation because they are needing something from you, which is your attention. It's not your help with fixing the problem. It's simply your attention.
Exactly. So I think, you need to be able to take care of yourself in those situations, because it is draining and it's mentally exhausting to not have those boundaries and not be aware of what is happening in those kinds of friendships and relationships.
Or even changing up what you do. Like you were saying, I immediately thought of like, okay, well, maybe this is the person that you should do activities with.
That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying? Like instead of just like, oh, let's grab a coffee and talk, when the talking is really one direction, then,
a big point.
You know what I'm saying? Like you really don't feel like there's
no reciprocation.
Thank you.
There's no like, hey, how are you doing? It's, oh my God, I had a terrible day and this and that, and this is what I'm dealing with, and me.
Oh my God, this was so fun. Okay, bye.
Exactly. And you're like, what about me?
Right.
Did you ask a single question about me? Or it's like, how are you doing? Oh, I'm okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. This is what I'm dealing with. And it's like they ask the question, but they don't really care to know, really. They don't give you that space.
Right. And it could be because they're carrying a lot and they need to get it off their chest. But truly,
that's still a dynamic.
It's one of those like flags, if you will, that you need to be realizing like, this person doesn't really, there isn't that 50-50 sharing or, conversation, or even it doesn't have to be about personal stuff. Like, do we have other conversations in addition to you complaining about stuff? Maybe about what's going on in the world, or hopes and dreams, or something that is also a component that isn't strictly, hey, listen to me tell you about all my problems all
the time. Exactly. Yeah. And that's part of it, is like, are you actually developing a friendship here, or is it just a one-sided venting session and then you go home? Is this an actual friendship that you would want to keep? And what can you do to maybe, if you do want to keep it, let's say it's a family member or something, what can you do to help yourself be okay in that situation?
Right. Because just because somebody is looking to get your attention or your energy doesn't mean you have to give it away, or at least not in that kind of capacity.
Right. You need to be able to know your capacity.